Thank you. Thank you so much. Before I officially start, I wanted to share something with you, and that's that in the very last week of my rabbinic courses here, I found out I was pregnant. The class was homiletics, and it's actually where we create the ordination speech that I'm going to read tonight. And I was practicing it on this stage under these heavy lights, and it was early in my pregnancy, I got really dizzy, and I very nearly fainted. I'm saying that for two reasons. One, I want you to know you may have to catch me. And two, because we are here commemorating 50 years of the Birmingham Temple, and people have been sharing their special experiences in this building. So I wanted you to know that I will always have that amazing memory of learning I was pregnant while I was spending time here. When I was a child and lost my first teeth, my parents told me that the tooth fairy would come, take a tooth I lost from under my pillow, and turn it into a star. I found this idea charming, but I didn't really believe them. I found that they were humoring me, and so I also humored them. They wanted me to believe their story, and so I pretended to. When I was a bit older, though, I decided it was time to end the ruse. I told my parents I had lost a tooth, it had fallen out, but then I had misplaced it. And I was upset that the tooth fairy wouldn't be able to find it. They assured me that she could find it no matter where it was and turn it into a star. I hid the tooth. And in the morning, after the tooth fairy's supposed visit, I produced the tooth, declaring that I had disproved their story. My parents, of course, laughed. This is a parable and a parallel for how I came to find Humanistic Judaism and ultimately become a rabbi in this movement. I felt for a while like I was humoring rabbis who spoke of God. I felt, too, that there was a greater truth that I could access. I wonder how much of my subterfuge regarding the tooth fairy came from my Jewish upbringing. I was raised to be a critical thinker and a bit chutzpahdik. I think of Pesach. I, being the youngest, had to ask the 4 questions, and I, being a people pleaser, really wanted to be the wise child. It seems to me that the 4 questions and the 4 children of the Passover Haggadah are connected. The kinds of questions we ask give way to the people we are being and becoming. Questioning is seen as part of the intellectual heritage of Jewish culture, but nowhere more so than for humanistic Jews. We are all here in this room and movement celebrating 50 years of Humanistic Judaism at the Birmingham Temple because we were not content to hear stories of the tooth fairy or any other mythical figures and simply do what we were told to please them. We have all asked big questions about what kind of person, what kind of Jew we want to be. Albert Einstein, another secular Jew, once said, "Learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. The important thing is not to stop questioning." This quotation encapsulates much of Humanistic Judaism. We encourage critical thinking and questioning. The questioning encourages us to investigate who we are and who we want to be, as individuals, as communities, as humanistic Jews. In the complex journey we all take Jewishly, that winding road of longing and belonging, it is the questions we ask, driven by our interests and passions, that ultimately land us where we want to be. And that has certainly been true for me on my journey to the rabbinate. Einstein notes that we learn from yesterday, and indeed the questions we ask of our past inform our becoming. Such questions might include, what of our past do we keep, and what do we reject? The texts, practices, philosophies, and approaches to life of our ancestors can sometimes provide us with guidance and inspiration. Sometimes we must break from the past when it no longer carries meaning. We respect tradition, but don't enslave ourselves to it. How we question the past guides how we make sense of our ancestry, our family histories, our place in the great chain of humanity in which we believe. Me, at 7 years old, I announced to my mother that I'm going to become Orthodox when I'm older. This was the influence of an experience at a Lubavitch day camp where we got to braid challah. A few weeks later, I changed my mind. I had realized that I couldn't ask all of the questions about religion that I had wanted to without being treated with a certain disdain. It made me uncomfortable that a religion with such deep roots could be made nervous by my questions. What were they hiding? I wondered. I wanted my religion and culture, but I wanted my critical inquiry too. So I abandoned orthodoxy, but stuck with questioning. Me at 14 years old. I'm still hanging out with the Lubavitchers, and I joined them on a trip to New York. That same year, I attended my first secular Jewish conference. First was New York. I loved certain aspects of that trip. We were staying with ultra-Orthodox families in Crown Heights, Brooklyn, and I'll admit that I found the whole thing sort of charming. Their families were close. Their community seemed lovely. But I experienced simultaneous outrage alongside joy on that trip. Why were the boys off to study while the girls were preparing dinner? Why were the men praying in a huge, airy space and the women crammed in a tiny space without even a proper view of the rabbi? And I, never a wallflower, spoke up about it. The Rebbitzin loved my critical mind. She tried to explain, and I think she really believed, that one could reconcile religious Judaism with feminism. But I continued to have my doubts. When I got to the secular Jewish conference, where women were not only able to participate fully, of course, but were espousing a decidedly feminist program, I thought back to that Rebbitzin. Although she really wanted to make her God-based Judaism and her feminism align, I had seen enough to know it was too much of a stretch. I just didn't believe God, if he existed, wanted women to be subservient in the ways I had witnessed. But the patriarchal religion seemed to have a good game going. If you tell women their subservience is commanded from above, they have no choice but to follow. Not only did I not believe in God enough to fall for it, in fact, the very ways God was used to promote such power politics made me question the idea of his existence altogether. I wanted to have my Judaism and my feminism too, and I discovered that in secular humanistic Judaism, I could. In this Jewish community, intellectual questioning was valued. I wanted to believe that whatever iteration of Jewishness I practiced, I could feel like I didn't have to lie to myself. I wanted my rational and intelligent self to be connected with my Jewish self. 26 years old. I'm on a multicultural trip to Auschwitz and other camps in Poland. Because I'm the granddaughter of Holocaust survivors, I'm asked to lead the group in singing "We Shall Overcome" at the site of the blown-up crematorium that the resistance managed to destroy. I stand alongside Stephanie, granddaughter to Polish anti-Semites, and Yves, survivor of the Rwandan genocide, and we hold hands singing together. 30 years old. I'm struggling to finish a Ph.D. in English in a poor academic job market. I had considered doing the Madricha program for years, but it had never been the right time. I had thrived as both a student and a teacher in the secular Jewish movement, but for many years had been focused on my academic career. However, I reached a point at which I realized I needed a change. The academic world can be awfully cynical, and while I thrive in contexts of academic and intellectual rigor, there was nothing for my spiritual and emotional side. We live in a time where people are very busy, manically so, but yet so many feel so empty. We live in a world where people are searching for meaning and inspiration, but also wanting to hold on to their secular, rational lives. And I wanted to be in the business of inspiring people. The rabbinic program has not only enabled me to become someone who is in a position to lend this type of inspiration through the weddings I officiate and the congregants with whom I connect, but it has opened me up to a world of insight and meaning as well. It has been a beautiful journey and one for which I'm so grateful. And as Einstein suggests, our past is only useful if we use it to inform the present. Of the key questions we might ask about our present, how do we find and define meaning in our lives? As humanistic Jews, we by definition must focus on the present. Secular means this world, and if we are not waiting for the world to come, we have no choice but to focus on the here and now. Someone recently said to me that in her view, humanism is appealing for its rationality, but it's a hard road. She said that the world is just easier if you believe someone is out there making decisions for you and taking care of you. I agree with her. I do think it's easier to go through life that way. But that isn't proof for existence of God, so much as proof that people can be lazy. I've never had an interest in suspending my questioning, even tough questions, Like, why is there so much suffering? Why do people act selfishly? How can we make change in the face of big challenges? But these become the questions that drive my passion, be it for social justice, the need to connect with others, or for purpose in my personal and professional life. To defer our responsibility to seek answers to these questions is to shortchange ourselves of the chance to find the meaning that comes from attempting to answer these questions. We look around and see the work that must be done and ask, what can we do? We look around and see the beauty, joy, humor around us and ask, what if this defines me, sustains me, and makes me fully who I am? Our present is fueled and charged by this type of questioning, and it informs humanistic Judaism. I've been inspired by researching and delivering a program, for example, on Maurice Sendak, the children's author, as a story of transformation on Yom Kippur, how his parents' Holocaust experience led him to tell stories to children that help them confront scary realities and that trust children with the truth. It reminds me of our teens at Oraynu, who recently interviewed a Holocaust survivor from our congregation, Branca, and forged intergenerational links as they worked together to tell her story. I watched the teens at the SHJ Youth Conclave struggle and engage with the questions of our present moment, from politics to Jewish identity to finding balance between popular and intellectual aspects of life. I celebrated Tu B'Shvat at my home with Oraynu's young adult members discussing poetry, nature, environmental justice, and storytelling. My present, our present, is continually being renewed and redefined through these experiences. Of our future, we ask questions of hope. What do we hope for ourselves, our community, our movement? What future moments can we imagine? How many will be in our community or congregation, and in what kind of space? How have we changed, and how have we changed the lives of others? When I teach, I tell my students on the first day, this course, the texts in it, each film or speaker are all designed to challenge and change you. If you are the same at the end of this course as you are right now, this will have been a waste of time and energy. That's also my approach to every service, every holiday, every educational opportunity. Humanistic Jews believe in evolution. We evolve through challenges to and the engagement of our head, our heart, and our hands. For the head, we look for that which stimulates our intellect. For our hearts, we seek the meaning that comes from heightened emotion. And for our hands, we hold to the belief that we have the capacity to build the institutions and communities that create the kind of world we want, the Birmingham Temple being an excellent example. The questions we ask of our past, present, and future, and the answers we find to those questions, driven by our passion, our sense of purpose, and our perception of truth, lend meaning to life. These have been a few of my questions, my moments, on the way to ordination. I am an example of the adage you probably know, it takes a village to raise a rabbi. I have so many people to thank that I can't possibly do so in name all of them tonight, but I'd like to highlight a few people. Firstly, my teachers. I do have a lot of degrees, and yet no teaching that I've experienced has been as intellectually stimulating and deep as the courses offered through the International Institute for Secular Humanistic Judaism. Thank you to all of my teachers. To Miriam and to Adam, my teachers and my mentors. I told Miriam she would make me cry. Thank you so much, and not only have I come to learn from you, I've come to love you. I also owe your families a huge thanks for putting me up, as well as all of the other congregants. There is a long-held Jewish tradition of hosting a yeshiva bahur when they come to study, and we have kept that tradition alive. So many people have hosted me, taken me for dinner, and helped me along the way, so thank you. I owe a huge debt of thanks to Rabbis Eva Goldfinger and Karen Levy in Toronto, who have become my co-conspirators, my partners in crime, and who have taught me so much. Thank you also to Sandy and Robert, Jim and Robbie, and Gary and Karen for coming down from Toronto for the trip. Thanks to my family for raising me to be that chutzpahdik child, and to Charlie, my husband, for your love and support. As a rabbi, it is a privilege and pleasure to be on journey with the broader community, Oraynu as my home congregation, and our whole movement, including all of you. I am proud of our past, stimulated by where we are at the present, and very hopeful for the future. For me as a rabbi, and for all of us in the common community of humanistic Jews, I believe, as Einstein said, that though we never know where we're going to end up or how we're going to get there, the important thing is not to stop questioning. Thank you.